For almost 300,000 years, Homo sapiens, our species, has lived on Earth. Although that sounds like an immense span of time, about 65% of our planet still hasn't been fully explored. Vast regions remain a mystery, and it's possible that other forms of life or even unknown civilizations exist beyond what we know. In this video, we'll explore the idea of a crystal city that was supposedly found beneath Antarctica by Admiral Richard Byrd. Richard Byrd was an American naval officer and explorer who left a mark on aviation, polar exploration, and logistics. His expeditions were credited with reaching both the North and South Pole by air, making him a trailblazer in the history of flight. He was also honored for identifying Mount Sibley, considered the largest dormant volcano in Antarctica. On May 9, 1926, Byrd and his co-pilot Floyd Bennett flew a tri-motor aircraft named the Josephine Ford from Spitsbergen, Norway, to the North Pole and back, completing the mission in about 15.5 hours. Richard Byrd's reported flight over the North Pole marked the start of a remarkable 30-year career as a celebrated public figure, aviator, and polar explorer. That achievement earned him recognition, including the Congressional Medal of Honor and a promotion in rank within the U.S. Navy. Even in retirement, he became the subject of songs and poems, and some parents named their children after him. His story did not end with his transpolar and transatlantic flights, though. Richard Byrd used his early journeys as a launchpad for a career in exploration and scientific research focused on Antarctica. As early as 1925, he predicted that airplanes would be the ideal tools for exploring both the Arctic and Antarctic. Using his heroic status, he secured backing for 5 expeditions to Antarctica. These missions left a scientific legacy and helped establish an enduring American presence on the icy continent. Despite his widely celebrated claim of flying over the North Pole in 1926, some scientists later questioned whether he truly reached it. Even though Richard Byrd received international praise, skeptics publicly challenged the authenticity of his accomplishment. Rumors said that Byrd might have turned back before reaching the North Pole, possibly because of an oil leak in one of the plane's engines. Byrd admitted there had been an oil leak, but insisted it happened near the pole and that he and Floyd Bennett continued the flight. Ironically, the controversy created by this expedition helped Byrd obtain enough financial support from private donors and corporations to organize what became his largest mission to Antarctica. Between 1946 and 1947, President Franklin Roosevelt formed a bond with Byrd and became involved with the U.S. Navy's transatlantic operations. Roosevelt decided that the United States had a strategic interest in maintaining a presence in Antarctica, and with his backing, Byrd led the 6-month expedition known as Operation High Jump. This was Richard Byrd's 4th expedition to the continent, and it included 4,700 men, 13 ships, and 25 airplanes. His teams managed to survey roughly 60% of the Antarctic coastline and revealed almost 1/4 of territory that had never been seen before. Operation High Jump, along with advances such as improved cold weather gear, specialized vehicles, and better fuel for overland travel, made it easier to push scientific exploration deeper into Antarctica's interior. The expedition, called Operation High Jump, was built around 3 main goals. First, it aimed to train personnel and test equipment under the harsh conditions of Antarctica. Second, it sought to strengthen and extend U.S. territorial claims by studying potential locations for American bases. Finally, the mission was designed to develop methods for creating and maintaining those bases while also expanding scientific knowledge of the continent. Operation High Jump functioned mainly as a military exercise, involving a fleet of naval vessels and aircraft used to map and take aerial photographs of a large portion of Antarctica. Although Operation High Jump was brief, officially running from October 21, 1955, it had a major influence on later Antarctic missions, on the creation of permanent Antarctic policies and laws, and on international scientific cooperation in the region. Now, you might be wondering how all of this connects to the idea of an ancient alien city. According to some believers, there is an opening to the Earth's interior somewhere in the Alaska Range, and this supposed gateway served as an entry and exit point for flying saucers. The theory suggests that Richard Byrd flew into the hollow Earth during Operation High Jump and encountered a crystal city hidden beneath Antarctica. The hollow Earth theory has shifted and evolved over the years, but its core belief is always the same. The Earth is hollow. In this vision, the Earth's crust forms the outer shell, and beneath it lies a central zone of gravity where the direction of gravity is said to reverse. Below that gravitational center, there is claimed to be an entirely different world, complete with its own continents and a central sun lighting the interior. This inner world is allegedly home to many beings, including thin gray aliens, remnants of ancient cultures such as the Vikings of Greenland, and even Nazis who supposedly escaped the Allied forces after World War II. Admiral Byrd's handwritten diary and notebook were said to have surfaced after his death, and for a long time, many people claimed it was his son who discovered them. Byrd's diary, however, was actually found in 1996 by Ohio State University archivist Ryman Golan while he was cataloging Richard Byrd's papers for the university. The diary reportedly includes entries describing Byrd's alleged discovery of a crystal city under Antarctica during Operation High Jump, which is why many enthusiasts connect his story directly to the hollow Earth theory. Byrd's diary was a crucial instrument that he relied on while planning and carrying out his expeditions. It functioned as a written channel of communication with his co-pilot whenever the roar of the airplane engines made normal conversation impossible. In addition to this, Byrd carefully logged his navigational calculations in the same notebook. Photographs of these key pages were later reproduced in a book, together with a copy of Byrd's official report on the expedition submitted to the National Geographic Society. His diary also served as an intimate record of his reflections, observations, and thoughts about many parts of his life, including his career, his family, his colleagues, and even his rivals. It was never meant for public eyes. It was primarily a private tool for organizing his ideas, noting down plans, and documenting his experiences. Even so, many writers and alternative researchers have pointed to this diary as supposed proof of his alleged discovery of a radiant city made of crystal beneath Antarctica. According to these accounts of Byrd's discovery, he was led to this hidden region by disc-shaped flying craft, and once he arrived, he was welcomed by an otherworldly figure he called the Master. Reports claim that during this alleged encounter with the extraterrestrial being known as the Master, Byrd was warned about the aliens' disappointment with humanity's use of nuclear weapons and their desire for humans to abandon them. Some UFO investigators consider this narrative especially important because it appears shortly after World War II and lines up with the boom in modern UFO sightings. After Operation High Jump, Byrd was allegedly brought to a government installation and ordered to classify everything he had seen. However, there is no credible evidence to support the idea that Byrd encountered a secret civilization in Antarctica. In reality, his authentic diary only covers his expeditions from 1925 to 1927, including his Greenland expedition, his North Pole flight, and his transatlantic journey. When it comes to Operation High Jump itself, the only major geographical discovery officially credited to the mission was Mount Sibley, a volcano. Nevertheless, the operation has inspired and circulated many conspiracy theories, some of which we will examine and debunk. One of the most persistent ideas tied to Byrd's legend is the so-called hollow Earth theory, which claims that a hidden civilization exists at the very center of our planet. In connection with this belief, the Polar Archives program, which is dedicated to collecting and preserving records related to polar exploration, contacted the Byrd Polar and Climate Research Center to ask for its view on the subject. The response they received emphasized that questionable or fringe theories have appeared many times in the past and will continue to appear, but science has a built-in way of either discarding or reshaping them. Some claims may sound plausible at first, like the ancient notion that the Earth is flat, but are later rejected by overwhelming observational evidence. Within science, any claim must be testable, falsifiable, and grounded in observations of the natural world, a standard that has been in place since the era of Sir Francis Bacon in the 16th and 17th centuries. Likewise, the acceptance of a scientific claim is ultimately shaped by the consensus of specialists in that particular field. This consensus-building process depends on scientists sharing their work through talks and posters at conferences, and then submitting detailed, peer-reviewed papers for publication. That cycle of publishing and critical review is essential for a claim to be accepted within the scientific community. It is important to understand that this method of handling doubtful ideas is very different from the more egalitarian attitude common in the United States, where people often say that all opinions have equal value. In science, experts define which claims are supported strongly enough to be treated as facts inside their discipline. Outside this expert community, however, speculative notions can circulate for centuries, like the belief that the Earth is hollow. These ideas do not stand up to scrutiny. They lack supporting data and are easily contradicted by satellite measurements and by the first-hand experiences of countless travelers, including Ohio State researchers who have visited both the Arctic and the Antarctic.
Conclusion. Despite being easily refuted by evidence, questionable theories such as the hollow Earth theory and associated conspiracy theories persist. These claims often assert that photographic evidence is fraudulent and the military restricts access to Antarctica. Such claims lack a scientific basis and are propagated by individuals who claim they are irrefutable. Unlike in everyday life where all ideas are considered equal, science relies on evidence, previous research, and the expertise of professionals. Thus, the scientific community does not consider claims that lack evidence and are not based on sound scientific principles. The scientific process involves a rigorous approach to eliminating poorly formed theories like the flat Earth and hollow Earth theories. Despite centuries of evidence against these theories, no scientific evidence has been found in the polar archives to support them. However, some articles claim to have discovered a comprehensive and compelling collection of never-before-seen highly classified photos from birds expeditions. These images supposedly provide concrete evidence of an entire forgotten civilization, including its architecture, artifacts, and technologies. However, the article notes that some of these images may have been enhanced or generated by AI for quality purposes. The article links to a book called Mysterious Antarctica, which was published by Lost Books in Canada. The e-book also contains around 50 pages of text generated by AI models called FairSec and GPT-Neo X1. May wonder why publish such articles that are based on false information. Butcher's intention was to encourage people to question their beliefs and reevaluate their assumptions about how humans can use new technologies for negative purposes. He wanted to demonstrate how disinformation operates by employing real-life examples in non-threatening areas such as lost civilizations in Antarctica. Therefore, the verdict is that Richard Byrd did not come across a crystal city during his expedition, but we cannot ignore the fact that this theory is thought-provoking. This does not imply that extraterrestrial beings do not exist. We have much more to learn about our planet and the universe. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.